So I never pictured myself to be posting videos on social media, but here we are. So I know I'm not the only one who has felt any kind of discouragement during this time. And so I just want to take some time just to be honest and real that I've definitely felt discouraged lately, especially this past week. I just posted a blog yesterday that kind of gives some more context to that. If you want to check that out, this video will make way more sense. But anyway, yeah, it's just been really discouraging. And I also just have been kind of wrestling with my brother and just kind of knowing where he's at emotionally right now, just the hopelessness that he's been feeling and just depression and stuff like that, because I'm a very empathetic person. And so myself having experienced hopelessness and just honestly not wanting to be here anymore, knowing how heavy that is, and then knowing that someone that I love is feeling that is just really, really hard. And so I found this letter from my brother when he was in jail. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And it was just a huge reminder to me that in the midst of discouragement and fear and whatever negative feelings that we're feeling, that God is faithful and he can use the smallest things just to encourage us. So I found this letter and it literally made no sense at all. Because I'm a very organized person, and the fact that this letter was where it was doesn't make any sense. But I truly believe that it was there for this very moment for me to pick it up in a time that I needed to be encouraged. And because everything that was in this letter was everything that I needed to encourage me. So I'm just going to read this. And there will be way more context if you read my blog post. So yeah, I'm going to read this now. I just got out of a church meeting and was kind of disappointed when they said that it was time to go. But it was okay. We read in Timothy and Acts, and the pastor emphasized how Paul was one of the biggest prophets aside from Jesus, and how he was killing Christians and was dramatically changed. He talked about how Saul was a bad person before he straightened out, and he told us that anyone, no matter how bad, will still be able to be changed and follow the righteous path if he desires. He asked us inmates to share our testimonies, and this one 19-year-old shared his. He said he didn't know anything about the Bible, and he picked up the Bible one day for the first time and said how he was tired of getting in trouble, and he didn't want to end up like his dad, locked up for murder, or his mom, who was constantly in and out of jail. He said that he wanted to change. The church leader told him that he would write him letters and pray for him. And the inmate says, "You don't know how good it feels to hear that someone is praying for you." I thought to myself to pray for him, and it's hard to keep track. I thought to myself to pray for him, and then the church leader asked for someone to pray for him. I finally spoke up and said that I would pray for him. Then the pastor talked for another 5 to 10 minutes, and you would not believe what he asked me to do. He asked me to close out in prayer, aloud to God in front of a group of people. This was the first time I'd ever prayed out loud in front of people. At first I was hesitant, and then once I got going, it wasn't so bad. But I couldn't do it without God's strength. I might cry during this part, so yeah. I believe that God is getting me ready for when I get out of jail to spread the gospel and to start in the race against time to save as many people as possible. I believe that the Lord has a plan for me, because whenever I'm ready to give up and staying faithful, he always does things in different ways to make me stay faithful. He's always encouraging me. And there are Christian songs that encourage me. One said something like this: keep on going on the rough path, for it is nearly over, and your rewards will be wonderful. Every prayer that I pray, he has answered. He makes me feel safe. And then he wrote in the side margin, pray for me about staying on a workout routine. And then Christians should live every day as if Jesus was coming back tomorrow. So I literally was bawling reading this letter because I was feeling so discouraged and just really worried about my brother and all of this stuff. And then I read this letter where he's saying that he knows that God has given him purpose and all of this stuff, and knowing the place of hopelessness that he's in right now, and just knowing this was his heart before he started to get really sick and stuff, and just being reminded that in the midst of not understanding, that God is still faithful and God still sees and knows and loves John in the midst of where he's at. So just wanted to share that letter. For those of you who have read the blog post, I'm sure this might make you cry because it made me cry. But in the midst of just uncertainty and craziness and everything around us, we serve a God who is faithful and who will do whatever he can to get our attention. So praying that this was encouraging to you, and that this would be a time for you to draw near to him.